Nestle has been in Sri Lanka for over 100 years. We have been committed to enhancing the lives of the local community since the very beginning. Today, we are Sri Lanka's largest private sector buyer of fresh milk. As we look at the smiling faces of thousands of dairy farming families, we know that we have kept the promise we made 30 years ago. Nestle, empowering Sri Lankan dairy farmers.
Bringing you the news from here at home and across the world, this is Primetime News coming to you live from the Newsfirst studios in Colombo. A very good evening, I'm Mahina Bongzo.
A very good evening to you. I am Shaheen Jurangpati.
On behalf of everyone here at Newsfirst, we would like to wish you a happy and prosperous Diwali.
Well, first, here's a look at your headlines.
JVP questions why action is not taken over the audit report pertaining to the renovation of the official residence of the permanent mission in Geneva. Reunited with the family again. Child reported missing for almost a year found in Dambulla. Sports officers threaten to boycott the National Sports Festival.
Moving on to the stories in detail, and this particular story really made the headlines today. A 4-year-old child who had been missing for over a year was found in Dambulla today. The child went missing in Ambalangoda in 2013.
This is Arumugam Subramaniam Buddhika. Arumugam Buddhika was a resident of Akuasa. In December 2013, Arumugam, along with his grandmother, who is a tea plucker by profession, had arrived in Ambalangoda. However, as there weren't any buses that night, Arumugam and his grandmother had to wait there for a while. As hope faded away, Arumugam's grandmother searched for her grandchild in every corner possible. She had distributed this picture of Arumugam to every police station and bus stop in the country in search of her grandson. In the Dambulla town, when Arumugam's grandmother went in search of him, she had showed the picture of her grandson to the Dambulla police station and three-wheel drivers in the town. After seeing the picture, officers at the Dambulla police acted immediately upon receiving a tip-off on the child's whereabouts.
This beggar had been feeding the child atop this rock. It was at this location that the beggar was arrested and the child was taken under police care.
When Arumugam Subramaniam Buddhika was found by the police, he had been renamed Raju. Arumugam had absolutely no memory of his parents nor his grandmother. This beggar had used Arumugam for begging. The beggar and the child who were produced before the acting magistrate of Dambulla are to be produced before the Balapitiya magistrate tomorrow. The parents of Arumugam Subramaniam Buddhika will be able to finally see their long-lost child at the premises of the Balapitiya magistrate.
On information received by Dambulla police, a 4-year-old boy was found along with the beggar, and the beggar said that this particular boy is his son. However, no evidence to prove that, and the police is going to conduct a DNA test to ascertain the paternity and maternity of the 4-year-old boy.
The Ministry of External Affairs has expressed its surprise at recent statements on the outcome of the case filed by the LTTE in 2011 at the General Court of the European Union, in which the Council of the European Union was the defendant, supported by the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the United Kingdom and the European Commission as interveners. The Ministry says that these statements by interested parties are based on an inaccurate premise. Now, on this Now, on the 16th of October, the General Court of the EU annulled measures taken to designate the LTTE as a terrorist organization. Furthermore, the court also lifted the asset freeze imposed on the LTTE. The defreezing of assets will come into effect in 3 months.
Issuing a communique, the Ministry of External Affairs states that from the outset of the case being filed, legal advice and expert opinion was sought from within the European Union system and specialist European lawyers. The communique reads that the government of Sri Lanka took action in the most effective manner available by providing material of substantive nature to the defendant and the interveners on a regular basis. The Ministry of External Affairs says that in these circumstances, the government of Sri Lanka provided all relevant material to the European Commission in order to assist the Commission to resist the claim by the LTTE. The Ministry of External Affairs notes further that the defendant and interveners have recourse to an appellate procedure within the stipulated period from the notification of the judgment. With regard to future action, the Ministry of External Affairs notes that the EU Council, the Netherlands and the UK have the options of adoption of new restrictive regulations, appeal to the European Court of Justice and national measures by European Union member states. The Ministry of External Affairs says the government has already commenced and will continue to assist the parties to the case in their future course of action, in the interest of protecting its citizens against intimidation through extortion by the remnants of the LTTE and the possible resurgence of terrorism in the country.
Now, speaking the news first via Skype on the sidelines of a legal conference in Tokyo, Japan, the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Attorney at Law Pulja Surya, said the Ministry of External Affairs must be more proactive in its approach to matters of such grave concern.
Well, it was heard that the European courts have imposed this ban based on hearsay evidence. For 5 years, we were unable to submit the direct evidence that we have. If we have failed to submit such evidence, I think this is a matter of grave concern for the nation and for the country. And it is not only that the people who have been sent by the government of Sri Lanka to Geneva and also to the European Commission to defend the country have failed, but one would tend to believe that there has been something more than that. Well, the people who represent the country, though they could be relations or friends or friends or relations, but still they too have, they are still not small children. There was a responsibility. This is not rocket science. Yes, always the attitude of the Ministry of External Affairs was reactive, not proactive. That is why we are now offering our services. We have a wealth of talent in the Bar Association. There have been no response from the government on the offer that we made. I reiterate the offer that we made once before, and we are willing to do the needful by the nation.
Now, views were expressed on this matter on the political stage today. This government wants those shackles to be taken off. All of this money is in the hands of KP. When the asset freeze is lifted, all of that will come to KP. KP is in the palace. So now we can see the path that this money will take. Now you can see who is with the tigers.
The government is clinging onto weeds now. They brought down the entire foreign service. They put in their daughters, their relatives, their sons, their friends and their friends' children in the foreign service. Embassies have been turned into ballrooms for parties. The situation has arisen where ambassadors are being beaten up. Many diplomats were chased away from their posts. We are now seeing the results. The government did not intervene to file an appeal when the European Union Court lifted the ban on the LTTE, and neither did they intervene to ensure the continuity of the ban when it was first imposed. Therefore, this government must be held accountable in full for the lifting of the ban on the LTTE in Europe.
යුරෝපයේ LTT සංවිධානයේ තහනම ඉවත් කිරීමේ මුළු වගකීම මේ රජයේ බාරගත යුතුයි.
JVP North Central Provincial Councillor Vasanta Samarasinghe questions as to why proper action is not being taken on the audit report pertaining to the Geneva Gate issue, the controversial refurbishment of the official residence of the permanent representative in Geneva. Samarasinghe posed this query in response to a statement which the Minister of External Affairs issued yesterday, exonerating the External Affairs Secretary of any wrongdoing in the matter.
Reports say MP Sajin Divas Gunawardena assaulted the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to the UK, Dr. Chris Nonis, in New York. Reports say Dr. Nonis resigned the same day. The government response to Dr. Nonis' reported resignation. Dr. Chris Nonis confirms that he was assaulted and that he has resigned.
As has already been widely reported in the media, I confirm that I was unlawfully assaulted by the monitoring MP in the Ministry of External Affairs in New York on September 24th. I met His Excellency the President and discussed this matter on the same day, and I submitted my resignation on the same day, the 24th, and returned to London that evening.
Allegations that attempts are afoot to sabotage the Foreign Service.
To me, the decline of Sri Lanka began in 2010. Till then, we had a very good reputation. My worries about Shenuki, she's not working for Sri Lanka. I think she's primarily working for herself. But she will use any tool to hand. Now, this lady is actually clearly not interested in Sri Lanka or in the President.
Presidential Media Division confirms resignation of Dr. Chris Nonis, states that investigation has been initiated into alleged assault and into complaint lodged by the External Affairs Secretary. The JVP's Vasantha Samarasinghe claims that the contract to refurbish the official residence of the permanent representative in Geneva in 2009 was granted to a company with LTTE affiliations.
Shenuka and her husband were involved with LTTE companies, contractors and ticketing companies. I challenge the government to publicize this audit report, or we will do it in the near future.
Former permanent representative in Geneva, Tamara Kunanayagam, confirms Samarasinghe's claim.
The residence where I was living, the official residence, was actually had rated before I arrived by a company whose the heads of the company had been arrested by the Swiss for LTT activities. They've been in prison, and I found that the estimates that the contract was given on the basis of estimates that were totally wrong. To my understanding, that the report was handed over to Sajin Bas to act upon. And I think you should ask Sajin Mas that question, and now the present Secretary, Shenuka Sinivaratne.
Monitoring MP of the Ministry of External Affairs, Sajin Divas Gunawardena, responds.
I wish to clearly state that I did not receive any such document at any instance. I have not seen such a report.
Minister Vimal Veerawangsa alludes to the fact that Minister G.L. Peiris confirmed to him the existence of the contract to refurbish the permanent representative's residence in Geneva and that it was awarded before Shenuka Sinivaratne assumed duties. Minister G.L. Peiris responds, says there is no connection between the LTTE and the said company, explains that the contract was completed prior to Shenuka Sinivaratne assuming duties. Against this backdrop, Vasantha Samarasinghe, who first brought up the audit report, questions as to why it continues to be suppressed.
Professor
G.L. Peiris should have looked at this committee report at the very least before issuing his statement to the press. I am not the one who is saying this. This is being said by the 4 people who compiled this report, including a Deputy Treasury Secretary. Minister G.L. Peiris says that Shenuka Sinivaratne assumed duties on the 15th of November 2009. This report says that 19th of November 2009. It is extremely clear. This transaction has taken place after she assumed duties. Now they are trying to acquit Thuwairaj too, who, according to this report, worked to raise funds for the LTTE. The monitoring MP of the Ministry of External Affairs initially said there was no such contract. Now they have accepted it. We ask Honorable Professor G.L. Peiris if he issued this statement without reading the report after listening to MP Sajin Bas. We call on Professor G.L. Peiris to take legal action with regard to this report and tell the country what action is being taken.
කළා තියෙන චෝදනාවට නෙමෙයි ඉදිරිපත් කළා තියෙන්නේ උත්තර. අපි කියලා තියෙන්නේ කරුණාකර
The answer that was given was not in response to the allegations that has been levelled. We have asked that they please make public the report of PB Jasundara. Through this, we can ascertain who is involved in this problem. We have pointed out that although ministers point the fingers at us, the tigers are with them. Vimal Veeravansa said 3 days ago, following discussions with the foreign minister, that the government had issued this to an LTTE affiliated company. We must be thankful to Minister G.L. Pirish for accepting this. It is the government that awarded this contract to the tigers. I am saying that it is better for Foreign Minister G.L. Pirish to resign than keep saying these things.
ආණ්ඩුව තමයි ඒ කොන්ට්‍රැක්ට් එක මේ කොටින්ට දීලා තියෙන්නේ. මම ඊටමත් ඕනේ කමෙන් කියන්නේ GL පීරිස් විදේශ ඇමතුමා මේවට කියනවට වැඩිය ඉල්ල අස්වියනවා නම් වැඩිය හොඳයි.
Meanwhile, UPFA parliamentarian Rajiva Vijayasinghe, former secretary to the Ministry of Disaster Management and Human Rights, addressed a letter to all party leaders yesterday. He notes in this letter that while he was away, Minister Vimal Veeravansa had attempted to defend Shenuka Seneviratne, the former permanent representative in Geneva and current External Affairs Secretary. He points out further that Minister Vimal Veeravansa claimed to have received satisfactory answers from the Minister of External Affairs in this context. Professor Rajiva Vijayasinghe draws to the attention of the party leaders that in 2012 he addressed a letter to the Minister of External Affairs, Professor G.L. Pirish, regarding this matter. He says that he wrote this letter on the suggestion of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Professor Vijayasinghe adds that he had told the President at the time that he would not receive a response to the letter. UPFA MP Professor Rajiva Vijayasinghe expresses his hope that the party leaders will take these issues up in cabinet or in parliament until there are satisfactory answers to the questions raised.
Professor Rajiva Vijayasinghe further elaborated on the matter on our special segment Newsline.
Professor Vijayasinghe, now you've written this letter to all party leaders regarding the audit report of the so-called audit report of the renovation of the official residence of the permanent representative in Geneva. What are you calling on these party leaders to do through this letter?
Well, I think they should take the issue up. I was motivated to do this because though I had brought the matter up in 2012 and nothing happened, at the time I had faith in the President that he knew what he was doing. He in fact had told me to write when I brought the matter up, and I told him, of course there'll be no reply, and he laughed, and then he said, but you write anyway. So I wrote to the minister, I wrote to the secretary. The secretary told me this was a complicated question, so he had written to Lalit Veeratunga asking his advice, and predictably Lalit had done nothing. And then Vimal Veeravansa was used, and we know Vimal Veeravansa, tends to do what he's told. He came out with a defense that included some falsehoods, that Shenuka was not even a High Commissioner when this thing was signed.
When exactly in 2012 did you address this letter to the Ministry of External Affairs?
It was, I think, at the end of April, because what had happened is I had gone to Geneva in March, and I found Tamara Kurunagam admirable. This was the time when there was a vast delegation with everyone fighting with each other. Mr. G.L. Pirish and Mr. Mahinda Samarasinha were snapping at each other. It was a disgrace. She told me that this report had been commissioned because there were serious problems about this, and she also felt that perhaps even the residence she was staying in was bugged, and therefore I reported this to the President when I came back, and that's when he told me to write. He sort of told me, you mustn't say these things publicly, and I said, what do I do when things wrong are happening? I also have a responsibility.
Professor,
and he said, right.
Have you seen the Foreign Minister's statement that was issued yesterday?
Yes, he
exonerating the Foreign Secretary of
yes,
any
he
guilt
tries
in this
to
matter.
blame Mr. Jauha by claiming that a lot of these arrangements were made before.
I don't really think it's a blame game, is it? I mean, he's saying.
No.
Wasn't it more a statement of fact that?
No. Let's put it this way: if nothing wrong had happened, then there is no reason to say that all the arrangements were made before Shenuka went. Of course, if you were ambassador, I were ambassador, whether there is a contract put before you or not, you do not sign it without checking on things. You do not check on the background.
Why is it that there is no action being taken in terms of this audit report?
The Public Accounts Committee should have gone into this. If it was suppressed from them, then they should have actually, checked on why it was suppressed, and they should ask for answers. Now, the audit report clearly states the problems. I've seen that audit report only very recently. it states other problems. Those are not answered by these queries. And I think it is wrong of the minister, following the footsteps of Vimal Weerarajah, perhaps all he is capable of doing, to come out with exonerations which don't address the questions.
The owner of the company at the centre of the Geneva Gate controversy, which refurbished the residence of the Sri Lankan permanent representative in Geneva, P.T. Thurayraja, spoke to the BBC Sinhala service. Here are some excerpts from the interview.
Did you ever had any links with the Tamil Tigers?
Never, never.
You are Mr. Thurayraja, right? You are the owner of the Selva Sug company, right?
Yes.
Selva Sug.
Yes.
Yes. Were you ever arrested by the Swiss authorities?
I know who is arrested with Swiss comment, but I don't tell now you. But because that is business problem against to me this company, no. But all people know who is arrested to Swiss government. One Swiss police also know.
Were you arrested by the Swiss authorities?
No, never. I not.
You had the contract, your company got the contract from the Sri Lankan High Commission, Geneva, to renovate the official residence.
Yes, that is right.
So, do you know your company is based in Zurich, right? Not in Geneva?
No, not in Zurich. That is my company running in Canton Zug. Because this contract came from my friend. My friend's name is Jaufar. Jaufar worked in Sri Lankan embassy before. He's my friend.
Right, Mr. Jaufar.
Yes, Jaufar, Uduman Jaufar. But Jaufar asked me, Selva, he's my best friend. He asked me, Selva, I want renovation this house because you also making this contract. I have some quotation. If you don't mind, you can give quotation. Because I already with papers one quotation to Jaufar. Then Jaufar called me. Okay, we have checked all your company also, but if you don't mind, you can take this contract. One company is Selva Sug GmbH, other company is Selva Sug Immobilien GmbH. I made this contract through Selva Sug Immobilien company.
Meanwhile, at a media briefing convened today, the Frontline Socialist Party made this statement.
Millions upon millions of rupees have been spent in an apparent bid to strengthen relations between the US government and the Sri Lankan government. Sajinwas Gunawardena has signed several agreements there. Via these agreements, millions have been paid to public relations firms in the United States. The task has been to bring about friendly ties between the American government and the Sri Lankan government. They spent millions in public funds to become friendly. Did they get the approval of Parliament? It is said that Parliament has fiscal power, but approval was not sought from Parliament. This has not been spent from the accounts of the External Affairs Ministry. In these agreements, Sajinwas Gunawardena has not put down the Ministry of External Affairs address as his address. The address is for a location on Dudley Senanayaka Mawata in Barella. That address is the address of an employment agency.
Our attempts to contact MP Sajinwas Gunawardena regarding the allegations made by the Frontline Socialist Party were unsuccessful.
In more local news, members of the government and the opposition make counter-accusations that there are attempts to obtain the assistance of the diaspora at the presidential elections.
The Global Tamil Forum is convening in Malaysia. For what? They are gathering to decide on what measures need to be taken at the next presidential election. They are deciding on who should the Tamil people vote for. Who has been invited for this? Mr. Wickramasinghe has been invited. I am not certain if he will go for this convention or not, but he has been invited. There are email invitations, so they are inviting Mr. Wickramasinghe so that they can discuss with him and make the decisions.
There has been no invitation. Vimal Weerarajah is just speaking out of ignorance. However, Minister Vasudeva Nanayakkara is a member of the cabinet. This is the Lankadeepa newspaper dated the 19th of October 2014. Vasudeva holds discussions with the Tamil diaspora in America. Discussions on how to gain assistance for the government. Now you can see who is with the Tamil diaspora.
Leader of the Democratic Party, Sarath Fonseca, commented today on events that have transpired over the past few days.
We saw over the past several days how this government treats university students. When children who are to be entrusted the future of this country are treated in this way, we too are ashamed at the actions of the ruler of this country. We have also seen the behavior of the Minister of Higher Education. He acts like a savage. He behaves and speaks like an uneducated and immoral individual. We saw that another group of MPs visited the centre where security officers of the Ports Authority are trained. They faced a similar situation as they did when they visited the Matale airport. There is a group of uncivilized thugs in Hambantota whose allegiances are with this ruler, and I believe that it is these thugs that are being deployed for these acts of intimidation. Just as this ruler approved when his advisor Sajin Vasgunawardena beat up an ambassador, it is possible that the same process is being followed all over the country. This is the culture that they are serving to MPs and students alike. We condemn this with the utmost distaste. We wish to warn this ruler that if he continues to spread this system throughout the country, we will definitely fight against it.
Moving away from the political arena and taking a look at the weather in the island, 7 houses have been damaged by gale force winds that swept across the Puttlam town this evening.
Our correspondent said that gale force winds accompanied by heavy rains were experienced at around 4:30 this evening. Transportation along several main roads, including the Puttlam Anuradhapura and Puttlam Kurunagala roads, were disrupted as a result of uprooted trees. However, the flow of traffic has since returned to normal. Our correspondent said that the electricity supply to areas surrounding the Puttlam town was disrupted as a result of trees falling onto electricity cables. The Puttlam District Disaster Management Centre says that it has commenced obtaining information over reports that heavy damages were caused by gale force winds that swept through the villages in Puttlam.
Hindus across the world celebrate the Deepavali festival today. The festival commemorates the defeat of Narahasuran by Lord Vishnu.
Deepavali celebrates the emergence into light from darkness. Upon vanquishing Narahasuran, Lord Vishnu asked all his followers to live in a manner that brings light and peace to all living beings. To celebrate this, Hindus light lamps and involve themselves in religious observances with the hope of enlightening their minds. Hindus also light a special lamp of ghee oil in remembrance of the dead. Sri Lankan Hindus also celebrated this day by engaging in religious observances.
The Hindu festival of Deepavali was marked at an event held at Temple Trees today.
Hindu priests visited temple trees this morning and conducted religious rituals invoking blessings on the president. The president was also immersed in work on preparations for the presentation of the budget in Parliament on Friday, along with the secretary to the Ministry of Finance and Planning.
The 20th death anniversary of the late Gamini Dissanayake, who served as a former opposition leader, a presidential candidate and former minister, was commemorated today.
The commemoration ceremony, which was held next to a statue of the late Gamini Dissanayake on Ananda Kumaraswamy Mawata in Colombo, saw the attendance of several ruling party members as well as members of the opposition. Floral tributes were paid to the statue of the late Gamini Dissanayake following religious observances.
Some pray that he rests in peace. However, I for the past 20 years wish that I would be able to see my father again. I pray that a leader like Gamini Dissanayake is reborn amongst us and renders a service to the United National Party as well as for this country.
මෙතුමා නිර්භීත තීරණ ගත්තා. මේ නිර්භීත තීරණ ගැනීමේදී බොහෝ අවස්ථාවල එතුමාගේ දේශපාලන ගමන
He took brave decisions. By taking these brave decisions, there were certain losses for his political journey. There was a time when the UAP-led government tried to take away Honorable Sirimava Bandaranayaka's civil rights. At that moment, he did not think about his position in the cabinet, his other positions, nor did he think about his ministerial position, because he did not calculate his next step. Today, politicians make several calculations. When they become a Pradesh Sabha member, then they try to be a Pradesh Sabha chairman and then a provincial council candidate. Then they try to undermine the electoral organizer to get the position for themselves. Then they want to become an MP and then become a deputy minister, then be a subject minister. After all of this is done, the next target is to be the prime minister or president. What I am saying is that as his son, I admire these brave decisions that he took. It is essential that brave decisions are taken in the society, but we do not take the decisions that need to be taken. This is because we think more of ourselves rather than the country. But Gamini Disanayaka, one of the special characteristics of his personality was his ability to take brave decisions.
A group of 430 graduates in the Western Province were granted appointments as teachers today.
The ceremony to grant teacher appointments to graduates in mathematics, information technology and aesthetic studies was held under the auspices of Minister of Economic Development Basil Rajapaksa.
In the high jump event, in the preliminary stages, they place the pole at a low height, so everyone is able to jump. When it is raised a bit higher, 2 or 3 people fail. Similarly, when the height is gradually increased, one by one people start to fall back. Only the talented really succeed. At this point, those who are watching on the sidelines do not remember those who fell back, those who could not surpass the height. Ultimately, when the winner loses in his third attempt, they jump to the conclusion that he is the real loser. This is the same thing that has happened to the president and the government. The country has been developed so much that when something cannot be done, there is criticism. In the end, the winner loses and the loser speaks as the winner.
We have issued a gazette notice to hold another teachers' examination in the coming weeks for students who graduated after 2011. We will do this for them too.
It's time now for Action TV.
Yesterday, Action TV revealed that the Central Cultural Fund had purchased 500,000 DVDs to be handed along with the ticket issued to foreign tourists who visit the ancient kingdoms of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Sigiriya. According to an advertisement published on a newspaper in June last year calling for tenders, the content of the DVDs were documentaries showcasing the heritage of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Sigiriya. It was also revealed yesterday on Action TV that not only have the tenders been called in violation of state regulations and procedures, but the Central Cultural Fund had selected an individual believed to be an advisor to the subject ministry to produce the 3 documentaries. Incidentally, an audit report submitted on the 3rd of this month by the Attorney General to the Secretary of the subject minister states that the individual in question had been bestowed with the task of producing 2 other documentaries titled Ape Urumaya or Our Heritage by the Central Cultural Fund in 2012. For this purpose, the individual was paid 7.2 million rupees in violation of all tender regulations. The report issued by the Auditor General also points out that the individual in question was a member of a tender assessment committee for the purchasing of DVDs by the Central Cultural Fund in 2012. Furthermore, this individual had submitted a price list for the 500,000 DVDs as per the advertisement calling for tenders dated 10th July 2013, when his company remained unregistered, while a fake address was also mentioned. By ignoring such irregularities, the Central Cultural Fund paved the way for this individual to earn a sum of 51.1 million rupees through the supply of 500,000 DVD copies. Tomorrow, Action TV will reveal a letter addressed to a high-ranking official at the ministry questioning the peculiar process followed by the individual during the production of the DVDs.
Green gram farmers in Hambantota are facing a situation where they cannot sell their harvest for a price that would cover the cost of production. They point out that although the government introduced a certified price for their produce, it is not sufficient.
In the previous budget, the special commodity levy on a kilogram of imported green gram was increased to 102 rupees in a bid to increase local production and encourage the local farmers to cultivate more. Thereby, green gram was cultivated in an area of around 6,000 hectares in the Hambantota district alone. However, the drought that prevailed when cultivation commenced and the prevalent rainy weather along with natural diseases that affect the crops has had an adverse effect on cultivation. Assistant Director for Agriculture in the Hammantara district, R.H. Gunawardana, says that the expected harvest from this season will see a drop of 50%. The farmers point out that they are faced with a situation where they cannot sell their produce for a proper price. At the discussion that was chaired by the district secretariat yesterday over this issue, it was decided to purchase a kilogram of green gram from the local farmer for a certified price of 180 rupees. The farmers say that this is not enough.
We expected a good harvest and to earn a good income. However, the harvest has dropped this time and the price has also dropped. The farmers are severely inconvenienced. When you take into account the expenses, 180 rupees for a kilogram of green gram is not sufficient. We request the government to at least pay us 225 rupees per kilogram.
The 13th episode of Newsfirst Gammadha, which brings the people and their public representatives onto the same platform to discuss and resolve issues in respective localities, was held at the pier of the Thabo Reservoir in Karulagaswava in Puttlam today. Fishermen in the Puttlam district gathered for the Gammadha program with hope of securing solutions to problems they have been facing for several years. The Chief Minister of the Northwestern Province, the Fisheries Minister of the Northwestern Province, officials from the Department of Wildlife Conservation and Pradeshya Sabha members participated in this program today to hear out the people and provide solutions to their problems. A heated debate was witnessed during the program today between officials and the public. In sports news tonight, sports officers have threatened to boycott the national games that will commence in Anuradhapura on Friday. Convening a media briefing today, the officers said that they will not attend the games, citing 3 demands.
Over 600 sports officers serving in institutions attached to the provincial councils across the island. At the National Games in 2012, these sports officers staged a demonstration demanding that their salaries be increased in accordance with Circular Number 6 of 2006. These sports officers recommenced their work after a promise was made by the Minister of Sports. At the media briefing in Colombo today, the officials said that the authorities had failed to fulfill the promises that had been made to them.
We have had over 10 rounds of discussions. It's been 2 years since 2012. This is the 40th edition of the National Games. We made our demands since the 38th edition, but nothing has happened. The sports officers receive a salary similar to labourers.
These officers also say that only qualified persons from within the sports sector have to be appointed for the post of Provincial Directors of Sports, and that the Director General of Sports needs to be removed from her position.
The arbitrary actions of the Director General of Sports have led to the destruction of sports. Our request is that this Director General of Sports be removed from her position and that this be brought under the purview of the Director. We need a Director who will be operating under the Secretary.
Responding to the allegations, the Director General of Sports, Ranjani Jayakodi, said that she is doing her best to increase the wages of the sports officers. She added that a future course of action needs to be taken by the Wage Commission, adding that the National Games will go ahead as planned.
On to cricket news. Sri Lanka Cricket have announced a 50-member squad for the first 3 one-day internationals of the 5-match series against India. Dinesh Chandimal, Rangana Herath, Lahiru Thirimana and Lasit Malinga have not been included in the squad for the series against India. Sri Lanka will be led by Angela Matthews. However, no one has been named to serve as his deputy. Indian media reported that Kumar Sangakkara's participation in the series is doubtful owing to injury. However, manager of the Sri Lankan cricket team, Michael De Zoysa, says that Sangakkara is in good health. Now moving on to athletics news, Sri Lanka's para-athletes are continuing to shine at the Asian Para Games in Incheon, South Korea. Anil Prasanna Jayalath clinched the gold medal in the men's 200-meter T42 event final at the 2014 Asian Para Games today. Anil Prasanna Jayalath clinched gold with a time of 25.87 seconds. Sri Lanka's Upul Indika, who competed in the same event, finished with a time of 27.24 seconds and clinched the bronze medal.
But moving on to some lighter news, US President Barack Obama in Chicago to cast an early ballot in the midterm congressional elections deftly sidestepped a jealous boyfriend on Monday. The president was casting his ballot at a voting carousel near his Chicago home, and standing next to him in the adjacent carousel was Aya Cooper.
Now then her boyfriend passed by with his own ballot in hand and warned the president jokingly not to touch his girl. Now we'll leave you tonight with the events that were caught on camera and how the US president turned the tables. For the News First team, I am Shaheen Jurangpati.
And I am Mahina Bongzo. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.